Hi, everyone, and welcome to Learnosity's series of on-demand webinars. Thank you for joining us today for our first long-term support webinar of 2026. For any viewers unfamiliar with our long-term support releases, they're strong, complete, and stable versions of our APIs. 3 times a year, we release these production-ready versions of our APIs, which are then supported for 2 years. My name is Audrey Young, and I'm a Learnosity product manager based in California. Later in the webinar, I'll also be joined by my fellow product manager, Monet Slanowski. AI has changed user expectations, and the market is more competitive than ever. As a leader in AI for assessment, Learnosity enables you to rapidly evolve your business and outpace the competition. We help you ship faster, without ever sacrificing quality or control. Because we invest heavily in R&D and operate on a continuous improvement loop, you get these advances automatically. Today, we're showcasing the latest innovations from our team of developers and AI specialists. Let's walk through what's new from our release on the 4th of March. In accessibility, we'll cover how we've simplified MCQs for learner focus, accessibility upgrades for rich response question types, and made STEM tools more accessible. In AI, we've got AI-powered essay grading within core APIs, and expanded language support for Author Aide. In authoring, we'll talk about how we've given you more control over question points, more flexible limits for random activities, improved access control for activities, seeing total activity points at a glance, item-level dynamic data previews for simplified QA, and more flexible check-answer attempts. In assessment, we've got encrypted validation for check-answer, and the ability to keep responses after learners hit try again. And in analytics, we'll explore enhanced reporting for last score by tag by user. Let's start with accessibility. Reduce distractors in single and multiple select multiple choice questions using a new items API configuration. By simplifying choices, learners of all cognitive abilities can focus on demonstrating understanding with confidence. Now let's take a look at a demo. Here we have a demo on hiding multiple choice question distractors. Now, normally, this is something that you would configure in Items API for the individual learner, but we've created a demo page to better showcase how this feature works. There are 3 parameters that you can configure: the amount of distractors to drop, the type of multiple choice question for this to be affected, whether it be single select or multi-select, and the minimum number of distractors a question must have in order to be affected. Now, something to note in this case, a distractor refers to an incorrect response option. Correct answers and alternate responses are never removed. Before applying any changes, you'll see here that we have 2 questions: a single select question with 3 distractors and 1 correct response, and a multi-select question with 2 distractors and 2 correct responses. Now let's say I wanted to remove 1 distractor. I want to remove it from both single or multi-select questions, and a question must have 3 minimum distractors in order to be affected. So I'll click Apply. And we can see now that our single select question only has 3 options showing, and our multi-select is unaffected. Now, the reason for that is because our multi-select question only had 2 distractors to begin with. If I wanted to remove a distractor from both of these questions, I would simply change our minimum distractor count to 2, apply, and we can see now that both questions have had a distractor removed. Now, if I only wanted to remove a distractor from single select question types, I could select to exclude multi-select questions, apply and reload, and we can see here that only the single select question has had a distractor removed. This functionality looks to support learners with specific requirements or accommodations. For example, reducing the number of distractors can help minimize cognitive load, making assessments more accessible while still preserving the integrity of the question and its correct answer. We've expanded inclusivity with a bunch of upgrades: enhanced keyboard focus, visual indicators, and WCAG-related fixes for the essay with rich text and plain text question types. Clearer screen reader messaging and ARIA labels for the file upload question type. The essay with rich text, drawing, video player, and plain text question types now reach supports VPAT status. We've improved accessibility across key STEM tools, including calculator input and image tools, ruler, and protractor. Calculator fields now have more descriptive accessible names for better screen reader clarity and image tools are keyboard accessible with screen reader support. These updates move the features to supports in VPAT reporting. Now let's hand it over to Monet to walk us through our AI updates.
Thanks, Audrey. So first, we've updated our Feedback Aide integration in the core APIs. This integration, which brings our agentic AI grading engine into Learnosity questions, now supports essay responses. This update enables AI scoring using analytic and holistic rubrics with shared passages as sources, expanding on the previously existing integration with short response. This brings scalable, consistent essay scoring directly into delivery workflows for reading comprehension, writing instruction, and more. Let's see a demo of this now. Okay, so what we have here is an activity with a couple of different questions in it. Let's say I want to add another item. I'm going to create a new item for the end that's going to be a bit of a longer thinking question. I want the learner to write an essay. So here is an essay with rich text question, and let's say I want this to be auto-scored with Feedback Aide to save time for that grader or to perhaps to get the learner some more immediate feedback. So here's my essay question. I want the learner to write an essay to describe how an author uses descriptive language to help a reader visualize the secret garden. Now I say the passage below. There it is. I'm going to select this passage. This is the secret garden. Maybe I'll put that first. Maybe I also want to have a passage in there that's just about descriptive language. So I'll look for another shared passage as well. Let me grab descriptive. So now I've added another article analyzing descriptive language in fiction. So maybe what I want the learner to do is to read this passage, read the article, read the passage from the secret garden, and then answer my question. So now I'm going to go into my question here. And again, I said I want to auto score this. So what we're going to do is we're going to click score with Feedback Aide. And there's two buttons we have here. So first of all, we have use shared passages for scoring. I'm going to select that because I just added my shared passages. And what that will do is when Feedback Aide goes to grade, it will share the passages with Feedback Aide to enhance the scoring, and that allows, it's great for open-ended. In this, we're asking for specific evidence from the text, so that will allow the agentic AI engine to really check and make sure the evidence is from the text and to evaluate that accurately. And then of course I'm going to create a rubric. Now the two new rubrics in 2026.1 are analytic and holistic. For this I'm actually going to create a holistic rubric. So here is our rubric editor. Our first criteria, we're maybe just going to have one here, and I'm going to say it is descriptive language. And now I can go in and I can add my different levels for the sake of the demo. So I have the JSON that I've copied. I'm just going to paste that in and click apply. And now we can see what the rubric looks like. So I have level 0 up to level 4 with a range of points for those top levels there. Also note I have this additional grading guidance field where I'm able to give some additional instructions to help ensure that the grading and the scoring is in line with exactly what I want. So I'm going to click save. Now I have my holistic rubric. I've selected use shared passages for scoring. I see that maximum points is populated from the rubric. It's not editable there. And so now I'm going to save this, and we're going to deliver this to our learner to take the test. Okay, so now here I am as the learner taking my activity. I'm going to click start. Now we have a few examples of questions in here just to show how this can integrate into a larger activity. Say next, answer. All right, and here's our question we've been working on. So the learner reads the article. I'm going to put in my answer, and we're going to say submit. Let's finish and submit the assignment. Perfect. Okay, now let's say the learner has submitted their assessment and I, as the grader, want to go in and see how they've done. I can go to session detail by item report and we'll see all of these items have been scored. So they've all been auto-scored. Here's a short response question for us. We have our 2 multiple choice questions, which have been auto-scored, of course, and then our essay has also been auto-scored. It got 4 out of 6, partially correct right there. Now here is the response and the score. At this point, if I want more details, if I as a grader want to go in and change the mark, if I want to see the feedback, you can initialize Feedback Aide API, and you can see the rubric here. So the rubric is rendered here for us. We have that 4 out of 6 is the exact same session that's just being pulled, and we also have the feedback to the learner here. And of course, as the grader, I can go in, I can always change this. Maybe I think this is more of a 3, and I'm also able to go in and change the feedback as well. Next, we've expanded language support for Author Aide. You can create and translate content in more regional languages now with Author Aide support for Irish, Welsh, and Scottish Gaelic, so your content reaches more learners. Let's take a look. So here we are on Author's site, and we are under Author Aide. We're going to click Start Translating, and we're going to select a couple of questions and to translate. So first, what language should I translate into? You see we have a long list of languages available here. We have Irish, Scottish Gaelic. Let's choose Welsh for now. I'm going to go in and I'm going to click a couple of questions. Now this one, if I take a look, this is all about parallelograms, squares, shapes. So this is a shape sorting question. Let's select that one. Let's select a couple other ones as well. Maybe these two. And maybe one more for us. And let's translate those. Now this is going to run a test. We can click on the View Running Tasks. It takes a couple of minutes. So we can go and view that. We have the English version over here on the left-hand side and the Welsh version over here on the right-hand side to make it easy to compare. You can see we've translated not just the question, but also the correct answers there. And we've translated all the items I selected. There we go. So when I'm happy, if I'm happy with it, I can just select it and then I can add that to my item bank. And once it's in the item bank, I can go and edit it as normal. So speaking of authoring and editing items, let's hand it over to Audrey with our authoring updates.
Now let's talk about our authoring releases. Question points can now be overridden at delivery. This means educators get the flexibility to tailor scoring to the needs and context of each assessment. Let's take a look at a demo. Here we have an activity that includes several items or questions with their point values listed on the right side. You'll also now notice a custom points toggle that, when enabled, turns these point values into editable fields that we can override with activity-specific point values of our choosing. So let's say, for example, I want to change this to 2, change this one to 8, click into the item. I can adjust the individual points for each question. So we can change this to 2 and 3. And so you'll notice here as well that as you update the points, the total points for the activity as well as the total points for that item are dynamically updated. This really helps to kind of give you that immediate visibility into the overall assessment weighting as you make these changes. Now, what's really cool as well is that when you click into the item and go to the original point value that was authored, you'll see here that it is still the original value, 1. And what that means is that the point values that we are setting at this override do not affect the item that was originally created in the item bank. It will only take effect for this activity that you are overriding. Now, if you decide you no longer want to have or enable custom points, you can simply toggle it off and it'll return to the original point values that were authored. If you decide at a later time that you do want custom points, you can simply toggle it back on and it'll repopulate with the overridden values that you had originally written. Now, this provides greater flexibility when building tests. You can adjust question weights to fit the context of a particular assessment while ensuring the original item remains unchanged wherever else it is used. Build more complex exams with increased flexibility for random activities. We've raised the defaults to 50 random item groups and 1,000 candidate items, so authors have more freedom to build complex, randomized assessments. Activities can now be configured as read-only in the Author API. By aligning the behavior of activities with items, you can implement richer permission schemes that improve both safety and consistency. Authors can now view total activity points directly in the edit view and even drill down into item and question level points. This gives authors a quicker and easier way to make assessments more accurately weighted and balanced. Preview dynamic data directly at the item level with a row ID display that identifies the active data table row, speeding up the review and testing process. Here we have an item that includes dynamic content, as we can see here with the different variables, operand 1, operand 2, name, apple. And previously, if we wanted to preview the dynamic content for each variable, we'd have to click into the question and preview at the question level. So here you can see we have the variables populating instead of the variable name. With this new feature, instead of going into the question, we can simply preview at the item level and have the dynamic content variables populate here. This makes it much easier to verify the variations, and especially helpful during quality assurance, as we can see the different row ID numbers attached to each variation as well. That way, we can make sure each dynamic value is rendering as expected. The number of check answer attempts can now be overridden during initialization via the items API init object. This enables authors to tailor feedback and support for individual student cases without creating duplicate question versions. In our next section, assessment releases. We've strengthened browser-side validation for check answer and similar workflows with encrypted response handling. This improves test integrity and makes it harder for savvy students to access answers through browser tools. Retain try-again attempts so you can view and display previous responses. That gives educators and learners more context for review and feedback without losing the learning journey. Now let's take a look at our analytics releases. A new rich data table experience enhances last score by tag by user reporting with full pagination, sortable columns, and automatic freezing of the first two columns. These improvements make it easier to navigate and analyze, delivering a smoother experience. Let's take a look at a quick demo.
Here is the current last score by tag by user report. Now all of these updates are backwards compatible, so this is still available, but now instead of classic, you can select data grid to get the new updates. So when I update this, I'm going to change an option for page size. So this is the new pagination. Let's make that page size maybe 5, and we're going to see what that looks like now and see how that's different. So here we go. Now we see I have 5 students per page. It's paginated for me, makes it much easier for navigation, especially for large groups of learners. I also have the ability to sort. So here we have it descending, ascending, and then we can go back to unsorted. And we can sort by each column that we want to. The first 2 columns are also frozen. So no matter how many tags there are, you can always see the student and the score.
And that concludes the overview of our first long-term support release of 2026. If you have any questions, we'd love to hear from you. Customers can log a ticket at help.learnosity.com. If you're not a customer, feel free to email us at team@learnosity.com. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to hearing from you.